All Denver with Sean Moudry and Brian Smith. Our guest today is Haley Hart. Welcome, Haley. How are you?
I'm well.
Good.
Thank you.
Very cool. All right. So everybody wants to know, who is Haley Hart? Tell us about yourself.
Denver agent. I've been in the real estate industry a little over 20 years now. I was working in the title industry for about 18 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I got my real estate license in 2012, December of 2012.
Okay.
And I was working in the title industry while selling real estate.
Okay. So what made you want to get into real estate then?
Well, it all started when I was like 18. It was the idea of sales and, that lifestyle, I think, to be honest. I was also really attracted to
the glamorous lifestyle.
Yeah, it seemed totally
sales.
Glamorous.
I was like, what? What? I'm totally confused right now.
I just think...
What movie did you see?
All the wrong ones, I'm sure. But, just watching the TV, what channel was it where they do the fix and flips and things like that, and seeing how people go in there and really help people solve their problems. I thought it was great. Not to mention I was always attracted to houses, drive down the street and like, oh, look at that house. I wonder what it looks like inside and that sort of thing. So when I was about 29 is when I got my license. It took me a year to do a 4-month program, but hey, I got it done.
And so you were in title while you were doing that then, getting your license, or did you leave title, then got your license?
I was in title. So I left the title industry in 2020.
Okay. And so now, you created a team, basically, a brokerage, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Well, it kind of just happened to me, if I'm being honest. I always had the idea of wanting to have a team one day, and I met Brandy Elias, who was somebody that was in school, and we just started talking and became Facebook friends, and I was always encouraging her and everything, and when she got licensed, she was dead set on coming to work with me, and I was terrified. I didn't think I was ready for that kind of responsibility, and being a mentor is serious, right? It's very serious. And I said, well, you need to go interview 3 other places at least, please. And ultimately, she ended up coming to work with me. So then the group just started to grow from there. Now there's 10 of us total, and it's pretty awesome.
Okay. And so that first person, though, what was like the value proposition, I guess, that you were offering to her? Because it's interesting. Most people probably would have been like, oh, you want to come work with me? Great. Sign here.
Yeah.
Or probably not even sign here. It's just get your license and let's go. But that's interesting that you actually said, go interview other people.
Well, I was scared because I only knew what I knew, right? And I wanted her to succeed, and I was nervous that could I help her do that? At the time, I wasn't very confident in myself, to be honest. I mean, I felt good about what I was doing, but helping somebody else was really just scary to me. And she didn't care. She said, no, I want to work with you. I see that you're passionate and I want to work with you. And I wasn't going to say no. So I quickly made the right changes that I needed to. And
well, I think anybody that knows you knows that you have a very high attention to detail, right? And you're very compassionate and caring. So I think those two things combined is going to lead you to make good decisions, right? Like you're not, I can't see you getting yourself in a situation where you're knowingly doing something incorrectly or wrong.
Right. And that was it. I just wanted to make sure that I was able to give her everything that she needed to be successful.
Now, how long into your career was this in real estate? Like you got your license, and how many years into your real estate license did this happen?
Well, we're in December of 2023. This was March of 2020.
Okay. Great. And so you must have had some success early as a real estate agent too.
I did. And truth be told, I was working full time in the title industry. I made a nice salary, vacation time, sick time, all of that. And I told myself I'm going to ride this out as long as I can. And I really kind of just handled real estate as it came to me, if I'm being honest. And then once I left the title industry, it was like, it's time to go. It's time to tighten my boots.
So what are some of the things you did then in the beginning to, when you pressed go? We were just talking about that actually, when you pressed go and you said, I'm going for this. What were some of the things that were important to you to do in real estate to get business?
Well, to get the business, first of all, I needed structure because I had worked, 8 to 5, if you will, for so many years. And now being completely out there, self-employed, building that structure for myself was important. So like a daily calendar, that sort of a thing. Utilizing my CRM to keep myself organized was a big deal. And really keeping in contact with all my past clients, asking for referrals. I've never really been one to market. Most of my business has come from past client referrals, repeat business, that sort of thing.
It's interesting because coming into this from from the restaurant industry, for me, very entrepreneurial, it never would have crossed my mind to come in and think, okay, the first thing I need to do is write my schedule. Like, that is such an interesting perspective.
Well, also because most people get into real estate so they don't have to have a schedule.
Right? That's true.
I needed the structure. And I'll be honest, there's still times where I struggle with it because of the flexibility that you have, but I also have the character that if I have too much, I'll get off track and it's hard for me to come back to that. So I need that structure.
What does that look like then on a daily basis for you? What's your structure look like?
Well, what it's been, I'd say this last year has been different than what it was in 2020, because in 2020, I was really trying to prospect more and do more marketing and looking for outbound business, because Sean and I have had conversations before, and, referrals are great, repeat business is great, but you need to be able to generate business from outside of that. And I was really working on that. This last year has been more admin, I'd say, because I haven't utilized an assistant or anything like that, which all of that will be changing in 2024. So, yeah.
So what's the daily, what's your day look like, though? Tell me about your day.
You're like a perfect day.
Coffee first.
What time?
That's why we get along. That's why we.
Yeah,
when does it
I'm
end?
not a super early riser. I respect the people that are that way. I am not that way. I start to wake up about 7 o'clock and get my thoughts straight, where, I know people that can just hop out of bed, and I am just not that person. So I get up, have my coffee, check my email. Typically will update my files on my clients first, that sort of thing. And then whatever I've written out for myself the day prior is what I'll work on.
So your day really starts the day before.
Right.
Because you make a list, you make this is what I'm going to focus on.
Correct.
That's cool. Very cool.
That is cool. Do you dream about it when you do that?
Sometimes.
Or does that release your dream? Does that
No, sometimes I dream about work.
Yeah.
Was it you that was saying recently that's like, it's a good thing? Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel that way when it's happening.
Well, I think you have to tell yourself this is okay, right? And the point is the conversation was that it's allowing your unconscious mind to process the information for you, while you're sleeping, instead of fighting that. Like, allow your unconscious to problem solve. That's what it's good at.
Isn't it funny how people are so different? Because I think if I did that, I actually would probably stay up all night thinking about the next day. What do I need to do to be able to execute the next day? So it's interesting. People are different. Like, I would get up in the morning and I would make a list, because that's how I think. I just want to shut everything off. Like 10 o'clock at night, I don't want to think again. So that's interesting that works for you. That's great.
Well, I have found that if I don't do that, then I end up waking up in the middle of the night stressed about work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We do have something in common, though. I'm not an early riser either. I don't get that. I don't like to get up like super early and get all that stuff done, even though I think that's a trait that some people would say is a successful trait, but I just can't do it.
The funny thing, I get up at 5 a.m. and I'm at the gym by 5:40, 5:45, and I don't like it, to be clear. If it was not that way, but I know me, if I don't get up and go early when there's nothing else distracting me, I won't do it. Like, I won't go in the afternoon. I won't go, like, there's people who go on their lunch hour. I can't do it. So that's the only time. So I tell myself that this is my time. It's my personal time. And that's how it's like kind of my little serotonin for myself. That's the only way I do it.
I admire that. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'll go to the gym at night in the evening, not in the morning. It's not happening.
All right, let's talk about the team then. So tell me about your team, this group that you have together.
Well,
where did they all come from?
Well, they all knew each other, basically. So a couple of the girls went to real estate school together, just have known each other, and I guess organically I haven't actually yet been out there recruiting or anything, which has been nice.
Yeah.
But they've all come to me because they've known somebody that's been a part of the group.
Obviously, the people that you have in your group, think very highly of you because they recruited people to the group. So what is it that you do that everybody loves about you?
From what they say, it's just the level of support that I provide. I'm there all the time for them, whatever they need, checking in with them on a regular basis. And not just about work, just how are you? And they seem to really appreciate that.
Yeah. I think in business, a lot of times, that's actually a story I told a while ago is I had this, back in my previous life of being regional director, I had an office where I would walk in and there were several people there. There were several businesses operating out of there from the regional owner. And one of those guys walked in one day and he said, "How are you?" And I actually started talking about the region because he was part owner of the region. And I said, our numbers are up and blah, blah, blah. And I just kind of went off for a couple minutes and he said, "That's great. But I asked how you are. I didn't ask how the region was." And that just has stuck with me for years. It's not all just about business, right?
Yeah, you should try to take some of your own advice, Brian. I'm just kidding.
I know, seriously.
You're actually really good about that. You always check in. I just had to take a shot.
So is there a value proposition, though, to these agents that you are working with, other than the personal support that you give them? I mean, do you do co-marketing together? What kind of stuff do you do to help them get business?
Well, I mean, we're not a team, so to speak, from a traditional definition of a team, if you will. We operate more like a teamerage. I hate that word.
Yeah.
Is it even really a word?
It's not a word, but we could come up with something different. We're going to have a podcast about that because I don't like that word either. I think it's weird, right? Yeah.
I think it's weird.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
Yeah. So tell me about that then.
Or an indie brokerage, right? I mean, that's how she's set up within our system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, it really starts with that support and really trying to identify where these agents are at in their career and what it is that they need, because everybody does need something different and support is different to everybody, right? When it comes down to, the marketing or anything, I'm willing to do whatever it is that they need help with, and I know that probably sounds broad, but it's true. If they have an idea, you need help executing it, let's sit down, let's see what that looks like. What are your goals? How are you comfortable getting there? I'm not great on the phone, something I need to work on. Other agents are great at it. If it's somebody who says I'm not the best at it, I'm going to sit down and do everything that I can with them to try to get them there. And if I can't, make sure that I get them to the right resource that can.
Yeah. And how many people are in the teamerage, for lack of a better word?
There's a total of 10 of us.
10 of you. Okay. And so how's everybody doing in this market? There's been a lot of talk about how the market sucks, as we've said.
Yeah.
Right?
Heard
people
that.
have said that, and other people have said, hey, like we had an interview earlier with Rudy, who doubled his business in the market. So how's everybody doing in your group?
There's definitely been some challenges, especially with the rise in the interest rates. I think it's great that they're starting to come down a little bit, but we all know what that brings to the table as well. But it's definitely been difficult. I would say that there are a few of the girls that are still continuing to succeed, and others that have had more experience with their clients just saying, hey, I need to wait. They're just not in the financial position with the rates being where they're at. I'd say that's probably been the biggest hurdle this year.
And this is an interesting thing that you could even help us with, Brian, because Haley and I have a lot of conversations about this, is the difference between running because of course, like when I met Haley, she's running an independent brokerage and, she's got 10 agents. And I said, how are you handling some of these challenges like, training, education, high level education, technology, those kind of things. And that's what led us down this path to where we are today. However, the trap now is the balance between a team where it's like, hey, we are all in this to achieve the goal for the team, versus a brokerage, which is I'm here to support and help you grow your individual business. And so now we're at this place and I'm saying we're as an advisor / coach for you, to blend the two together. And I think this is where this Teamridge conversation kind of comes in. It's because it's somewhat of a brokerage where agents can, have their own goals and do whatever they need, but yet Haley has goals that she would like to achieve with her group of people. So, how do you cross those two together?
Well, I don't think it's really any different than what this office is. You have a bunch of people, and everybody has a different idea of what they want to do to be successful. Everybody has different levels of success, and really, what it comes down to is what you can tolerate. Because I think a lot of brokerages, not just ours, but just in general, one of the things that they struggle with is there's a lot of turnover. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that get into the business, and as you said, you watch the TV shows and they look really glamorous and everything, and then you get into it and you're like, I'm not sure this is what I signed up for, right? Because it really is. It comes down to a sales and marketing job, finding the clients.
Yeah.
But there's 100 different ways to do it. There's a lot of different things. I made a comment one time in one of my former offices where I said, you could do anything and everything works as long as you're willing to do it over and over and over again. And I said, you literally can do a sign that says, I'll sell your house, and go stand out on the corner of Colorado Boulevard, and I think it was Mississippi where that office was. And so an agent actually did that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Took out bottles of water and passed out bottles of water with a sign, and he talked to people. Now, he only did it once.
Yeah, I don't think he's in business anymore.
Yeah, it's not. But if he would have done it every day for forever, then he probably would have gotten business, and then he becomes known as that person. So the cool thing about this business is there's so many different ways you can be creative and do it. Mm-hmm. But the number one thing that you have to determine is the effort that I'm putting into somebody, the time that I'm putting in, is it worth what the return can be? Because at the end of the day, you have different levels of commitment too, right? You have different levels of commitment from people. And the ones that are challenging are the ones who don't want to show up in the regularly scheduled stuff, and then they want the last minute help.
Yeah.
And so that's where you have to figure out, I think, what your tolerance level is. One of the things that I think works in all business is standards. So if you create those standards that says, here's how we operate, here's what's expected of you, then everybody can get along and you'll be successful. And if people aren't willing to live up to those standards, then maybe you don't get into business with them. Because I don't know very many people that in business would say, yeah, that person told me up front they weren't going to do anything, and it turned out great.
Yeah, I think top producers are attracted to higher standards, and I think Haley is an example of somebody who has very high standards, right? And as you know, I'm kind of wired that way too, and I think that's where we lined up is to say, hey, we can perform at a higher level, and we have expectations of people around us to perform at a high level. So I do believe that attracts.
Yeah,
I agree.
So what does it look like then? So where do you want to take this business that you've created? Now you're with Keller Williams. You created a relationship with Keller Williams. So what's next? Where do you go?
Well, to the top. All the way to the top.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
I like it.
I'd like to, being that there's 10 of us now, I'd like to double our group by the end of 2024. I know it's a pretty big goal, but I think that we can manage that. I'm really excited about the merge with Keller Williams because the resources that I've been able to tap into, I'm just blown away. And I'll be the first one to admit that. Meeting Sean was just great.
No, don't say that.
It really was.
He'll play that over and over and over again. He's probably going to actually turn that into a, something he can like put as a ringtone.
I'm going to make it Brian's ringtone.
No, I definitely would like to double in size. I'd like to get to a point where, the group is everybody in the group is consistently doing well, right? I mean, I understand there's going to be those highs and those lows, but just really working out the path, getting there for everybody is my goal.
Yeah. Well, I would probably guess based on your past and your personality and the importance of structure, that really the results of the sales isn't as important as the activities. Like when you say you want everybody to be consistent, like, is that more of an activity-based thing or a results-based thing for you?
I think activity-based, because that will generate the results, period.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm always saying you got to do the work. You have, I mean, how often do you hear that? You have to do the work. And just getting a newer agent, or even, you know, somebody that's been licensed for a few years but isn't really doing much, getting them used to doing kind of a routine in their business, I think is so valuable, because I didn't do that for the longest time. It wasn't until I went out, you know, was only selling real estate, didn't have that salary to rely on. Doing that changes everything.
Yeah.
It's interesting you bring that up, because I do recall years and years ago working with new agents or newer agents and saying the worst thing that could happen to you is you get a deal right out the gate. Because if that happens, you're going to think they're always that easy. And then you're actually, as you're working to get your next deal, you're going to struggle and you're going to think something's wrong with you, and you just don't realize it's just that hard, right? To consistently generate business. You have to always either be actively prospecting, actively marketing, networking, or something, right, to generate that next deal.
Yep.
And, you know, if they think it's easy on the first one, then, you know, they get frustrated later.
It's almost like you have to be humble. Like I remember in 1997, there was a guy that started the same time as me, and he sold like his girlfriend a $750,000 house in 1997.
Yeah, wow.
That was a big deal. You know, the average sales price was $100,000, and he walked in one day, and his name was at the top of the board, and he's like, "I can't believe that everybody doesn't sell a house every month. This is easy.
This is easy."
Yeah, he never sold another house.
Yeah,
right. And so that's important. You know, you can get lucky. I mean,
well, you and I know a guy who got a referral fee that was $75,000 back then, and same thing. He's not in the business anymore either. he thought it was easy.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I know somebody that sold, I think it was 10 her first year, and I had to tell her, listen, this doesn't happen to a lot of people. So don't get comfortable. You have, you know, this is the work that you need to be doing.
You got to do the work.
And the second year was really hard.
So are most of the people that you have now, or they started with you and they were newer?
Correct.
Right. So tell me the top 3 things you tell them that say, here's what you need to do to be successful. What are the top 3 things?
Well, the schedule. You need to have a schedule of some sort. Don't give up. No matter what, you can't give up. Because if you do that, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Schedule, don't give up, and be fearless. Don't be afraid to try. I mean, look at me, I'm doing a podcast. You know, like, don't be
you were
afraid.
a little nervous coming into this.
Terrified.
We're not so bad, right?
Terrified. Just don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an important part, right? Because some of this is scripts and dialogues, and I love it when somebody says, that doesn't sound like me. You know, how often does that happen when you're teaching, where you're like, say this, and you're like, it doesn't sound like me? Well, of course it doesn't sound like you. Do you sound like what you sounded like when you were 10? You know, you change the way you sound as you grow up, and as you get into business, what you say changes. You know, scripts work, I think.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so do they have a specific time that they're expected to come into the office? Like, I always am amazed when people start in this business, how few actually have a set schedule where they actually show up.
You know, they don't. And I think that's part of the challenge of our culture is that, you know, since we're not operating as an actual team, that I don't have that type of expectation of them. You are ultimately running your own business, and, you know, you've got to show up for you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the struggle in which Sean and I have talked about between the brokerage model versus the team model.
It's so interesting because we had a meeting last week, Haley and I. We were talking about her ICA agreement, her independent contractor agreement, and we were going through it. And one of the categories was full-time versus part-time. And I think we both had kind of an aha there in that moment where we were talking about, well, if, you know, they don't have deals going, then their full-time production participation is to be in the office, lead generating, working on their business, to do that, at least 30, I think we talked about 35 hours a week as it's a job. That's a full-time job. And if you're saying you're full-time, but you're working part-time, then you need to tell me, being Haley, you need to tell me, are you actually part-time and saying you're full-time? Right? And I think the old saying is, does the audio line up with the video? Right? Is what they're saying lining up with their actions?
Would you say that you're basically, your role is like a coach?
Yeah, sometimes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, like, when I think of coaching, I always think about the 5 coaching questions, right? What was your goal? How did you do? How do you feel about that? Based on your results, what do you need to do next? I'm sorry, I skipped one. It was based on your results. Has your goal changed, rather? And then what do you need to do next? So I think one of the things that people confuse is, like, they confuse coach and consultant. Okay, so like a consultant is somebody that helps you kind of come up with an idea or solve a problem, right? A coach is somebody who holds you accountable to doing what you said you were going to do. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like Sean has a coaching business, and I think he should maybe change that title to coaching and consulting, because you love ideas.
Yeah,
you love, like, helping solve a problem. That's probably how you two met. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I think that
she actually read my book.
She did.
Yeah, you didn't.
That was the one person that did. I'm just kidding. Do you want to give a plug for your book?
No.
That's number 1 on Amazon.
Still.
Okay. You don't want to? No? Okay. But anyway, I think that's the key is like, we were just talking about this with a previous guest about how when you have an idea, a lot of people that are entrepreneurs, they think and think and think and think, and they never press go. Mm-hmm. Like a coach is somebody who's going to say, okay, it's time to go. Press go now.
Yeah.
And then you adapt and you change, and business isn't like a straight line. I mean, you have an idea and you think it's the right thing to do, and then you get into it and you go, well, that actually we need to tweak that. And so I think it's a coach's role to make sure that you're doing the activities that lead to the end result that you're looking for.
But the coach can't want it more than the agent.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. So talk about that. Like,
well, I mean, there's been challenges, of course, where, I noticed that there's somewhat of a lull, or where I'm then saying, okay, let's sit down and let's talk. Where are you at? Where what headspace are you in? And how can I help you? And I think being able to, notice when that's happening is huge, because it doesn't take a lot for somebody just to step back and say, you know what, I can't do this right now. Mm-hmm. And thankfully I have such a nice relationship with each one of my agents that I typically know how they're doing most of the time, right? I'm talking to them on a regular basis in group, both in our group meetings and individually. So when I'm sensing that there's something there, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? Is there something I can help you with? Do we need to have a meeting? That sort of a thing. And usually it comes out positive.
Yeah.
Usually that's when you start to see, okay, I need to get back on track, and being able to try to help hold them accountable for that.
All right, Haley. So I'm sure people are going to want to get in contact with you to inquire about being involved in your organization. So how do they do that?
They can call me. My phone number is 720-938-1722. They can email me at haley@newkeyr.com. haley.integrityg.com. Social media, Haley Hart, Realtor. I mean, pop in the office.
What's the location again?
6279 West 38th Avenue, Unit 9.
Beautiful office.
Very cool.
Right in Wheat Ridge. We love it.
Well, very cool, Haley. Thanks for being on here. We'll talk to you soon.